welcome each of you for coming out this evening. The purpose of this meeting is to hear from Stanley County School Board of Education as far as the condition and future of Oakboro Elementary School. At this time, I'll ask our clerk to do our roll call. Here. Thank you. At this time, I also asked a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Aye. All right. At this time, we'll turn it over to the school board.
I would like to call to order the April 15th, 2025 work session for the Stanley County Board of Education. First on our agenda is we need the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? We approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? No? Okay, our agenda is approved. We also do an invocation, if that's okay with you. If you would all just bow your heads. Lord, we just thank you for this day. God, we thank you for giving us the ability to be able to come, Lord, and for two elected groups of people to be able to meet together, Lord, and just have discussion. We thank you for the parents who are here, Lord, those that are here in person and those that are on live stream. Lord, we just thank you for their interest in the school. We ask you to continue to watch over us, watch over our schools. Lord, put the hedge of protection around them each and every day. And Lord, we just ask all this in your name. Amen.
And this is a meeting between the two boards for them to give information to us, information to you guys. It's not a question and answer from the audience back to the school board.
I'll turn this over at this time. Dr. Dennis and Dustin Lewis will be doing our presentation. Like I said, we are live streaming this, so for those who were not able to be here tonight, because we realize that ball is in season, so we know that's where a lot of people are tonight. But you'll be able to go back and watch this tomorrow, probably about midday. They'll have that up on YouTube. The link will be available under the Stanley County Schools website, so you will be able to go back and watch that later if you'd like, and share that with your friends. We want to get as much information as we can out there, but we do appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mayor and members of the Oakboro Council. Appreciate you guys being here tonight, taking some time so that we could help maybe give you some information about Oakboro School and some things that have been happening. I know you see there's construction looking apparatus outside the school. We're going to try to explain some of that in detail, kind of what's going on with the school, and then we're going to get into some other things that I know has been talking, the board, I should say, has been talking about with Oakboro School. And thank you as well for the audience that are attending today. So the Stanley County School Board of Education, and we'd like to again thank the Town of Oakboro Board of Commissioners. We're going to start off by talking about Oakboro STEM School as far as the physical plan aspect of Oakboro STEM. And I have with me our maintenance director, Mr. Keith Benton, and he's going to give you some information as well since he is our resident expert on some of these issues. As far as the facilities go, the original construction of we call it the old part of the school, was built in 1926. There was an addition added to the right of that if you're facing the school in 1974. Right now, and if there's anything else you want to interject, Keith, I know the structural issues that we're dealing with, and we'll put some pictures with this in a second, is the exterior veneer separating from the building. That's where you see all the plywood and all of the wood outside to try to protect if that veneer were to come loose. Exterior wall cracking and separating. There are foundational issues. The walkway cover will need to be replaced where that veneer, that facade is in the front of the school. We have floor joists and ceiling joists that are issues. We have issues with the roof. There's extensive deferred maintenance and a low capacity. And Mr. Benton, if you want to talk about what we're looking at here.
Thank y'all for coming tonight. So I'll briefly go over this with you. So if you'll look at the top of the picture here, you see the veneer wall that's above there. What you see in the wooden structures are to keep the veneer wall, if it does to fall, to protect the students as they're coming around the building around campus. One part of that. Second part of that is these are fire egresses for the classrooms that are right there that we have to protect the kids in case the building catches on fire we will have a way out of the building fast for them. So there's an image of that, and that's pretty much just a precaution for us to protect us to where the youngsters can get out. That's the newest part.
The older part is still holding up pretty well.
All right, so if you'll see above this wall, back during there was a hurricane that come through, a storm, and our fiber line blew off the roof of the school. So it just lays across, and that's what we provide, internet and protection over the building. So our fiber line just lays across the top of the roof. So we go to put it back up. Well, when we did, we put a ladder on the face of this veneer wall. Well, when we did, the wall moved. And so that was before we ever really climbed on the wall to really investigate even further. So we adjusted the ladder, and you can see the wall as we took steps. You can see the wall starting to move, kind of like water, like ocean running back and forth the waves. And if you'll look up there in the top half, here's a better picture of it. So if you'll look to, oh, there you go. So Dr. Dennis has the pointer here. Oh, okay. If you'll look halfway between the wooden structure and the roof line, you're going to see a black line that runs around there. Well, that's the mortar that has separated about halfway up and has come out of the veneer facing. So that right there, it's gotten worse over years, obviously, because of the freeze and thaw effect of cold in winter, back and forth, constant. So it's made that wall deteriorate even more and move. And that's your movement in the veneer wall. The metal lintels that are on the bottom here that you're going to see, you can go to the next one. So these metal lintels that you see right here, they're about a big portion of them have rotted off when we get to the brick veneer columns. They're supposed to sit on top, where they've deteriorated so bad that they're just barely there at the point, and some spacing is about an inch right around there, and they need to be attached over the top of it. So if you go inside that, so as you and the community drive by the school, you see all the wooden structure out there, and you're like, what is going on? Well, that was the first problem that we found when we were putting up the fiber line. So as we got engineers there to look at it to see, make sure it was structurally sound for your kids to be in school, we found the inside of the CMU wall started separating as well. So that amongst itself, you're going to have separation even in your house back and forth. But that right there over time tells you that there is some sort of footer deterioration taking place below that CMU wall. It is separating away from the wall. Now when we build schools nowadays, those walls, lateral walls, tie into other walls, they tie in together. Back then when this was probably built, they're not tied in together with rebar. So here's the restroom that's in the back of the room, and you can also see right here, see around the bottom of your tile work, that the base that goes along the wall, that is separated about ½ an inch. So that tells you that the concrete slab has started settling down, which indicates that there's foundation and footer issues in that area. There's another image from the other side of the wall. There's the restroom again. You can see right here where the actual floor tile around the outer edge is starting to bust loose now. No, you're good. Okay. So right here is your cap that runs along your roof line. So it started separating. So there's a section of that roof that you can actually, it has a foam roof on top of it. You can actually take your arm and push it and reach up under the lintel there. So it's separated from the outside half where it's broke loose from the metal cap. There is the classroom there, and you can see this lateral line that is running there along the veneer, the CMU, the brick. So most of the time the block will crack in the mortar joints. You know, just like your house, you're going to have little blocks that crack there. This has actually cracked so bad that it's cut across the CMU block. So that led the engineer to knowing that, okay, we need to dig a little deeper. This is more structurally issues going on than what we really see.
Now, do you want to go out
All right, so moving forward, we have an engineer firm right now at this point that is on staff. We actually have the project out to bid. Phase 1 is going to, as soon as school is out, this classroom, we're going to have some remediation done in that classroom. So we have another firm that we're going to have to hire to do that, to oversee that part of it. But what'll happen is that knee wall will come out of place, and then it will be manual labor from there, putting a new footer in. So knowing how deep that footer is, how wide we're going to have to go, and all that. The veneer front will be getting tore off at this same time, and when it'll get tore off, they'll come in with a new metal structure beam, and it'll tie into the outer half, and then the two walls will tie together like it's supposed to with the metal stud rods on the outer half of the cap. And that's where we'll go. Our plan is to start as soon as school's out. That way we'll have everything done before the kids come back to school.
But Keith, that's upwards of $1 million just for this summer that the taxpayer's going to have to foot. You got to remember, we're allocated as a school board. We're one of a few states in America that are not independent. So we're totally funded from our county commissioner board. That's how it's set up for public school boards in North Carolina. We had $4 million of capital outlay given to us. So roughly $500,000 to $1 million takes up a quarter of that to sort of put a Band-Aid on the building. Got to come back the next summer and wrap around the building. I'm just going to sum it up. The building's falling down. This was called 20 years ago in a 2005 study that we needed new capacity in the western end, and this needed a new building. It was also called 10 years ago in another follow-up study, and here we are again. So this is just a result. You got $30,000 worth of lumber sitting out there to create 2 fire egresses, so if the building falls down, the kids can get out. It's a pretty dire situation just from a facility perspective.
Yeah, so that crack that you see along that mortar joint there at the beginning of the outside veneer face, that joint there that you see, that joint has started now since we've started investigating more and more, working around the outer half of the building. So the next phase of that will be next summer. We'll have to go back and address that. You can't do work like this when kids are in school. One, it's too distracting. Two, is the danger of the kids being around when issues like this are going on, and we're trying to fix them.
All right, next we have a school capacity and overcrowding. We're going to address some things that I know you can anecdotally see what's going on in the western end, but we actually had hired professionals to come and give us data and do studies to kind of facilitate and forecast, what needs to happen down the road. So as far as elementary overcrowding, we have growth in Western Stanley County. Locust, Stanfield, and Indy currently are over capacity at 115, 107, and 110 respectively. West Stanley Middle is over capacity at 113, and the high school's at 94 right now. It is projected over capacity by 27-28 school year. Yeah, I forgot I brought them. Okay, thank you. The K-3 maximum class size, and I'm sure you're aware of that, is something in North Carolina to where you can only have so many kids in K through 3. So you can have, the average for the district has to be 18 in kindergarten, then it goes down to 17 in first grade, or 16 in first grade, and 17 in second and third grade. And the max you can have in the class is 3 over that at each level. So sometimes when they say you look at school capacity, well, yeah, maybe I can fit a lot more kids in there, but the state or general statute, is telling me no, you can't. And if you do, here's the penalty for it.
Now, a little caveat to that is there is a bill in Congress right now to remove the caps off of K-3. So when you think about when mommy and daddy and grandpa went to school, the capacities are changed. It's not how many butts you can fit in the classroom. It's about classrooms. And that has created some real issues. I mean, on top of the growth and the development, that's been the main thing, lack of construction, lack of capacity in the western end. But the general statute, that's an unfunded mandate from the state. So they made the law. Here we are. A lot of rural counties are affected. I don't know that the bill will pass. I believe that, and again, note that choice schools, privates, and charters that receive taxpayer dollars are not subject to the same rule. So what it means here, just to kind of give you an idea of the statute, is if you got 21 kids in a locust classroom, for example, you need, 15 in another classroom to average out to 18. Two schools, Locust and Stanfield, operated on a waiver from the state. That's a financial penalty to the taxpayer. And the only reason we got out of the penalty box is because we did the Indy edition to eliminate that overcrowding. But you got to remember, we're just getting down to 95% capacity at each school. If we don't have a new Oakboro school right here in the municipality, we're going to be right back into redistricting. And it's going to go farther into each section to alleviate the constant development. I think you guys got 2 more developments going up here. There's several in Locust. You'll see more about it. This Indy capacity number, that will go down to, I think it's 90%. We'll see it on there. But that was the school that was over capacity 3 years ago when we did the first study.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we can't give us so many waivers, and right now, your school's capped, so you don't have to deal with as much, but at some of the other schools, we have to split classes and do all kinds of creative things to keep them low. So here's capacity utilization. You can look at this online. It's, again, just showing what Mr. Lisk had already told you. I'm sorry, in front of you. As far as where we are with Indy, Locust, and Stanfield, when the scenario changes, and currently, here's where we are, we'll be at 90, 95, but Oakboro still, again, you're operating at capacity, and Stanfield will be at 93.
You can see a lot, hold on, go back to that slide. A lot of folks in Oakboro, at least the main street from, I think it's around 8th Street back, go to Aquadale. And we're at, where's it at, 97%?
You're at 97.
Utilization. So even if you pull Oakboro back out, I think we got into the mid-80s there at Aquadale. So we are running into some issues across the county. Some of that's to do with the K-5, the K-3 class size law. A lot of it's to do with just growth and development, and some of it's to do with a demographic shift where people are moving to.
So we did a demographic study in 22-23. There's an updated version as well. And the results, again, showed all the Western Stanley County schools at overcapacity within a few years. So the Board of Commissioners agreed to fund an addition to Indy School to alleviate the growth, and the school should be open, barring anything tragic. It should be open for the next school year. And it was a 10-classroom addition. So just rolling through this real quick, 22-23 membership forecast and land use study was presented to the board on June 29th of 2023, and they're saying as far as annual K-13 growth, 135 over the next 10 years, which would be 1352 total. The average annual K-13 growth rate is 1.47. And I know you're saying, why K-13? Well, we do have our early colleges, they have the super senior year. And 1.47% over the next 10 years. So our average daily membership was forecast with those numbers. Y'all can look at them later. So here's the study. You want to talk about the study a little bit?
Yeah, don't try to read this. All this information's in board docs. You can go back and find it. We'll see the sourcing of that. It's all publicly available information. Very hard to see this. Can everybody see the red? All right, that's where we're at. That's the western end. That is every school starting with Indy, Locust, Oakboro, Stanfield, West Stanley Middle, West Stanley High. This column here is 24-25. We are tracking above that right now. We're ticking down on the northern end, ticking up in the western end. You can see as we approach year 10, we're bleeding over here. We're all in the red. That's what I want you to walk away from it, is that as we sit now, if we don't do something as a county, I've always made the joke that we might as well buy land, put trailer parks out there, because we're going to be Stanley County schools in trailer parks. There is no other way we can put kids in the buildings.
And that red's over 110% capacity. So he did an off-target analysis just to see how accurate he was for the past 2 years. And without going through it all, he was only off by 1.8%. A lot of that had to do with the fact that the northern end went down some. But anything, he said, if I'm 1% or lower every year, then I'm doing good.
Yeah, so that's a margin of error. So it's less than 1% per year. So it's pretty accurate. And when you go back and look at the prior studies from 2005 and 2015, they both had demographic studies. And they're fairly accurate. They're never going to be exact. So you got to rely on the data. And so far over the last 20 years, they've been fairly accurate.
So here's just some more information you guys can dive into later. If there's anything you want to pick out, Mr. Lisk, you can. But so the demographic study was updated in 24-25. And the purpose of the study mainly was to do the redistricting lines, because we're not demographers. So we hired a professional to show us, the best way to utilize it, and as far as also looking into future growth. We explored options for reopening Ridgecrest. Right now, there's a cloudy deed, which means the deed's not straightforward. You don't technically own the property, you own parts of it, but there's contingencies in there. And they explored options for a new 600 student capacity Oakboro Elementary School, district line and choice options. So there would be kind of like Andy said, you'd have a DLI, you'd have a STEM option for people who want to make it a choice school, but it'd also be a district school well encompassing the greater Oakboro area, and explored options to redistrict West Stanley Middle School. As far as the objectives, was a balanced building utilization, accommodate expected growth from residential development, preserve the feeder pattern, and consider transportation and accessibility. So attendance zones and student assignment.
Well, let me go back on the study a little bit. I know he's going to get into the findings, but the main point is we needed an updated study. So we're 3 years down the line. We've got the Indy edition going. Stanfield has increased 25% enrollment in 3 years. And we've got 5 mobiles out there, or had 5 mobiles out there. We had nearly 600 students at Locust. And with choice schools, you have the ability to control that. Again, we have a choice school, but there are a lot of choice schools that they don't have to abide by all the same rules. But either way, we're still running into capacity issues. And you notice West Stanley Middle at 113%. So part of the study was, well, is there a way to redistrict? We got 4 middle schools to alleviate the growth there. That didn't seem to work because kids are going all over the place. It's hard to keep the clean feeder patterns, and we're teetering as a county, much like Union did years ago, on being able to do that, meaning that, Oakboro goes into the western end middle school, and then, as it used to be, and then middle school into the high school, and the northern end, Albemarle, and so on and so forth. Then, Ridgecrest comes up. We don't own the property, but we needed to look at it's a non-municipality versus a municipality. So if there's option A and option B, we needed to know from a data standpoint, what is feasible? Well, we know here in Oakboro that you guys have a police force, all right? And your town pays for it along with the grant. So that's great. We know that if we drive a bus down through here, we can swap up 60 kids pretty much down Main Street. It's a little bit larger than that, but basically transportation efficiencies go up. We know that we own the land, or the county owns the land, so you have the ability to, the county does, to barrier off behind the school, keep the good parts of the school. Daniel, I know you're practicing basketball half court over there, so we don't have enough gymnasium space in this county, definitely not in Oakboro. And we could build a school back there. But we needed to know from a demographic standpoint what it looked like here. And the best way that I could describe it is when you think about like a virus and you see it and it starts spreading, it gets larger and it's orange and then it's red. That sort of looks like Oakboro, Stanfield, and Locust when you get onto a demographic map. So we knew that with a larger capacity schools, and again, I'm going to digress a little bit here, but the way the state funds is on your students, not buildings. So if you have 350 kids in the school, the state gives you money per student. The legislature over 20 years has done a fantastic job of passing money down to the local taxpayer via what they're called allotment formulas. You can go into Google and Google it, and I think it's about 65, 75 pages long, and you can look at all the formulas they got to determine how we're going to get things. So you can move a teacher, but there are things that the local taxpayer is responsible for. Not every teacher assistant is state paid. Not every teacher is state paid. Not every bus driver is state paid. Not every maintenance worker is state paid. Matter of fact, all of our maintenance workers, I believe, are county paid. So the local taxpayer has to pick up the tab. So if I see some business leaders in here, if you take 350 students times 2, you split them between 2 buildings miles apart, you got the same revenue coming from the state, except your costs go up. Meaning you have less to reinvest into the kids. By general statute, your county is responsible 100% for facilities and the maintenance. The state's only responsible for operations of the school system. County's also, by general statute, responsible for supplementing the school system. So when we looked at this, we knew that, we thought that Oakboro would be a great fit for a school. It's been here for a long time, right? You got the land. You got people here. We have a police force. Transportation efficiencies go up for us. Cost efficiencies go up for us. And it seemed to make sense, and the data supported it. No one, I don't think, is for or against like a Ridgecrest. I think at some point that deed will be cleared up, and that might be another option. But it is a smaller capacity school. And so with the board here, we've also ordered, and this sort of goes outside of this study, to look at our high school system, because I think as we talked with some of the commissioners, it would be great to see Oakboro back into the Western feeder. Right? It seems like anecdotally when I talk to people, and it seems like some of maybe the commissioners and the people in the crowd, that we've got to have capacity at the middle school, we've got to have capacity at the high school if in fact Oakboro is to come in, because even with the new school, you still have a split feeder system where you have an Oakboro school, but you're feeding into the southern end. So this is just a start. And this is just another study that I think is of more to come.
So we're going to go attendance zones and student assignment. Again, I won't read this verbatim, but as far as the 22-23 findings, the forecast, they did the general population forecast. There's about 370 developments of different type identified in the study. Where they're all to come to fruition, we don't know. Our student generating potential is 0.4 students per residential lot, 0.26 per residential acre is what he figured.
What you need to gather from these slides are these are developments coming up. The next one's Locust City Development. The top one at the top is 1,100 home senior center. Then you start seeing 184 units, 86 townhomes, 112 townhomes. You still have about 300 left off of Mission Church Road to be developed homes, and you got 92 left at Meadow Creek Village. This means more kids. That's what that ratio means. For every unit, there's about, what, a half, 0.4 you said?
And we didn't put all of them on here either because there were some that would come prior to this. This was just the updated list that was given.
This was as of September 24.
Yeah.
So a lot of these
It's not
slides you can
all-inclusive.
pull is development. Where are we going to put the kids?
So student assignment objectives and assumptions, just talking about unit capacity is going to increase from 325 to 575 effective the next school year. It will provide relief right now for the West Elementary schools. It is balancing building utilization, accommodate anticipated growth of residential development. It will preserve the feeder pattern, and there's transportation considerations in there.
The county is down 13 bus drivers. The county is down 13 bus drivers. It's very comparable to the rest of the state. It's difficult to hire them. I'm going to expand a little bit outside of that because transportation is tough. The state passed I guess it was a law on the classified pay scale. What that really means are non-certified employees, so your maintenance workers, your bus drivers, cafeteria workers, teacher assistants. They developed a minimum pay scale for those state-paid employees. Well, there were workers here in Stanley County that were county paid doing the same position that hadn't had a raise in 20 years because of the pay scale. Well, the state says, all right, that has to end. They didn't fund it, so it's passed down to the local taxpayer. That's about a $1.2 million recurring hit to our budget that at this point is not funded. And so that makes it very difficult, whereas Art in the back of the room's head of transportation in Cabarrus County, whereas our bus drivers get paid $15. Art, what are you paying them, $25 an hour? Yeah, so it's very difficult to compete when we're so close on the boundary. So when we think about transportation efficiencies and running rural routes versus running municipal routes, it makes a lot of sense to be right here.
You want to talk about these maps, son?
Yep, so this is, and sorry if I'm in your way, this is the map as it sits with the redistricting of Indy. If you look at the real hard dark red lines, those were existing lines prior to the redistricting. If you look at this outer portion here, which runs along all the way coming by West Middle, this is Stanfield, the pink is Locust, and this is Indy, so it's stretched out a little bit from each line. That's about 60 here from Stanfield, roughly 100 up there is what was redistricted. Now, that was with forethought because part of the study was looking at Oakboro and saying, well, if there's an Oakboro school, The board wanted to affect the least amount of people in a redistricting as possible. Because as you know, your citizens have been redistricted a lot. And a lot of people have. I think let's go to the next map first and then come back to that. Okay. And so we asked about what would an Oakboro district line possibly look like. Now, he drew this as an exploratory scenario, so it's not factored in post-vote on the redistricting for Indy. So once the school's built, we'll walk back through the same process again to say, okay, well, here's how many students we need to fill up that school, plus a choice option. We're thinking somewhere in the range of maybe 500 to 600 districted. There's 275 in there now, K-5, that are choice students. That we'd still like to do it sort of like Indy, where you provide a district plus a choice. But this is what it would look like. You come back in the other side of Oakboro going this way. It's similar to the old line. I don't know if, Stephen, you remember the old line. You're a lot younger than me. But anyway, this might look a lot different, but it's this lower portion right here at Stanfield, Locust, Indy District. There will be a small amount of students that could possibly get redistricted. We want to give you an idea. The board wanted to know what it would look like as we were making the decisions on Indy. And then go back. So this is, again, if you'd like to read the full study, go into board docs. It's StanleyCountySchools.org. Click district, click board docs. You're right there. It's not the easiest one to navigate, but you can pull up this meeting date, and you can pull all of this information. And it's got links to the full study. But essentially, what it came back is when we're looking at Ridgecrest and looking at Oakboro as if we have option A as Oakboro, option B as Ridgecrest, which is the best to pursue. And right now, the demographer recommendation was for Oakboro. So that's where the board's at. That's what we're pursuing. But we wanted you to see that Oakboro is better positioned to provide relief for Stanfield than Ridgecrest. And remember, Stanfield went up 25% in 3 school years. Numerex, this is just information on the demographer.
Let's talk about funding options. So capital funding is what's used for school facility construction, equipment, maintenance, all the operational supplements and such. In most states, school districts, the school system act like its own fiscally independent taxing authority. North Carolina, again, Mr. Les referenced earlier, we are a dependent school district. North Carolina counties are responsible for building, equipping, and maintaining public school facilities, and the county is designated to use local taxing authority for school boards.
Essentially, we're not a taxing authority. We have no ability to levy taxes. We have no ability to ask for a bond. We have no ability to lend money. We are subject to state and local funding and any potential donors or grants that we can apply for. So we have to work with our county commissioner board. It has to be a collective effort, a collective decision. That's hard to get 8 of 14 people on the same page. That's 2 entities to decide how we're going to invest in taxpayer dollars within education.
So the way capital funding works, as far as any capital funding from the county comes from tax revenue. So that could come out of a fund balance. There could be they could take a loan out if they wanted to, or put on the ballot a school construction bond. As far as the state, most of it's tied up in lottery monies. There's a public school building capital fund, needs-based, and we're going to talk about this more later, needs-based public school capital fund, and public school building capital fund. The public school building capital fund is amount of money that we get every single year. We use 2 years of it to help fund Indy. The needs-based grant we'll talk about, but public school building capital is essentially lottery monies that come directly to you based on a formula. Right now, when we did the additions out at Aquadale and Locust, it's still paying the county back for those additions, which should be out, I think, in a couple years.
And this is just lottery money coming back. About a quarter of the money, as I understand it and listened at a conference a couple of years ago, about a quarter of the lottery money is now coming back in the form of this needs-based grant. There was, I think, we'll get to it, maybe it's not in there, roughly $258 million issued across the county, and for the last, and this is rather new, I think 2017 was the first year they created it. They've changed the rules quite a few times, changed the dates to apply, have mostly, by the general statute, issued to Tier 1 counties. These are very poor counties, smaller counties out east, whereas one tax penny might generate a few thousand or $50,000 or $80,000 worth of tax revenue. Ours, I think on the last fiscal report, was $700,000 plus or minus. We have zero general obligation debt, so we're a very healthy county. I think the last bit we had on fund balance was roughly $50 million plus or minus, or about half of the county's revenue. But this is your lottery money coming back finally. Took them legislature about 15 plus years to decide that we get to participate in the lottery money, but you have to apply. Last year they started into Tier 2 counties, and that's where we sit, sort of a lower end tier, mid-pack.
Yeah, so the Needs-Based Public School Capital Fund Grant, it was established to assist counties with critical public school building capital needs. It is funded from the North Carolina Education Lottery, and it's available to counties for construction of new school buildings, additions, repairs, renovations of existing facilities. And like you said, we are a Tier 2 county. There's a Tier 1, which are the lower wealth counties. The Tier 2, they sometimes call it lower wealth. And Tier 3, of course, they are not eligible for this.
We have previously applied for these grants too, and our commissioner board has approved these in the past. Again, the rules keep changing. As we understand it now, you got to be shovel ready. You got to have the land. You've got to have the studies. You've got to have the architect involved. We've recently narrowed down to an architect. I'm not sure that the board has voted on that yet, but essentially we're going to hire an architect firm to help us with this needs-based grant that's due in the August-September timeframe. I think it comes out in August. And
well, the state got burned one time because the school system, I don't think, was as ready, or something didn't pan out right, so they had to get the money back and redisperse it. But they really do look at critical need, of course, your needs. And they also look at, are you ready? If I give you this money, it's going to happen, because we don't want to take it back, and we want you to be ready to go.
Cherokee County, I believe, had to give the money back.
So it cannot be used for real property acquisition or capital improvements to administrative buildings. The funding appropriated for the grant exceeds $258 million for last fiscal year. The counties are required to provide local matching funds from county funds, other non-state funds, or a combination of sources in accordance with the general statute. And they give us a list of where we all fall. So Stanley County would provide a 5% match, which is one of the lower percentages.
And the way we understand it from speaking with the architects, they've had a lot of success with this. Most of the ones that we've interviewed, once they were engaged, they're within a 1 to 3 year time frame of getting awarded this money. But the match is a minimum. So most of the counties are putting above the match. They're showing effort. It's a state superintendent that gets to make that decision. So Mo Green is now the state superintendent, but he alone, as we understand it, will make that decision. Before it was Catherine Truitt. This is the current dollar amounts awarded. So you can apply for a high school, a middle school, or a elementary school grant. It doesn't have to all be used just for that. So we could do a cover letter, we could do a full elementary school, a project at a high school, and maybe an addition at a middle school, and possibly get awarded the $62 million because we included a high school project. So, but anyway, we are going to apply, or at least hope to apply, and win the commissioner buy-in for one of these amounts, and hopefully in the next few months we'll know that from the architect firm.
So again, this is something you can read later about evaluation of and the process used to award the monies. This is our ranking here.
This is just a match. You don't.
Oh, yeah,
you can't see it.
Yeah.
It just shows where we're at the 5%.
So the last thing we have for you tonight is facilities information and next steps. We put some of the ages of our facilities. We have a lot of older facilities, so I don't think we need to really get into minutiae.
You got 19 school buildings. 9 of them are 76 to over 100 years old. You see Locust on there. Locust has various parts to it. I think one building was built in the 80s. Aquadale had an addition. And if you go to the next page, the next slide, you see that we have a severe lack of construction in this county over the last 25 years, really. We haven't built a new school since 2003,
yeah.
when we built Almar Middle School. This is why we're at where we're at. It is a collective effort. It is asking for town support, county support, commissioner board support, school board support. But we are way behind the 8 ball here. The 2005 study noted that all of our high schools had a lifespan of 40 years and were due for replacement, at least North, South, and West Stanley High School. We haven't even talked about West Stanley High School, but it has some severe foundational and structural issues that an engineer is currently looking at.
So the reason we're here today is to ask for support. Formal support of a new larger Oakboro school from the Town of Oakboro Board of Commissioners for the City Council. Strong and outspoken support from the citizens. Funding support from the Board of Commissioners to approve the grant application. August, September, again, moving target. There was a little different. We have a new superintendent for 2025 and subsequent years. And we need to prepare to match the required minimum of 5%. And if that doesn't happen, look at lending options if we're not awarded the grant.
Exactly. So the growth hasn't stopped. You saw all the developments coming in. You see the age of the facilities, the state that they're in. Whether the school board and the county can get approved for a grant or not, we need an Oakboro school. It has to happen here. So, you know, our county has lending options outside of a bond. Montgomery County did a USDA loan. We have fund balance. It could be a combination of all of the above: grant, lending, fund balance. So there are options. I think we have zero general obligation debt. So if we did go for a bond, I think a bond will be very difficult to pass, only just for an Oakboro school. So that's a different animal in itself. We feel like, as a majority of the board, that this is a prime opportunity, a good start with the grant. We'd love to get awarded. We'd love Oakboro to be the first building, the first grant that we're able to do, and I think that will help launch other renovations, expansions that we need across the county. And again, we have some high school data coming back from Numerex, the same demographer, to sort of help us look at the high school level. Because if anybody has ever been to West Stanley High School, you might have a kid or a relative that goes to 3 different places. They might take a class at the school. They might take I've got a friend that his daughter had to drive to another county at a community college to take a class. And then my neighbors at home across the street taking classes. So they all go together in middle school. In high school, they all go home, and then they come back together in college. But this just happens in Stanley County. So we have to fix, as a board and as a county, we have to not only just do Oakboro, we have to fix the high school system. That's how your town can get back into the Western feeder. We have to have greater capacity at the high school, have to have greater capacity at the middle school, but there needs to be a way where we can put more students in that building to get better funding. This is outside of just the facilities alone. This is more longer range of how are we going to offer opportunity for the kids. And then I think we'll go back just one more. I'll end on this sort of ask of support, and part of our ask to this board would be formal support. It's very challenging to get funding as a public school board, no matter what your needs are. If you've been around this county, grew up here, it's been very challenging for prior boards. It's just been very divisive in the county. I think this is a good time for everybody to come together. It's good for the taxpayer if we could get awarded for that grant. We need it. It has to happen. We would ask for the town board support. We would ask for your support, and we're going to go ask for the county commissioner board support in pursuing this. But we need you to speak up. We need you to be outspoken. Don't sit down and let it pass by, because there are other agendas out there. But right now, the data and the research support a school here.
So the next steps are the board will consult with an architect and get the needed artifacts to create a successful needs-based grant application. We've seen that the most successful counties have had architects and people come in to help put together a portfolio to help them sell their grant application. Additional meetings with town officials as the application process unfolds to keep you guys informed and for for you to inform us. Ask the county commissioners to sponsor the grant, and of course, with the minimum 5% match, and actively seek community support for the project.
Do y'all have any questions?
Yeah, I have
And
one.
I told everybody we had to
Or a
keep
couple.
Bud on track, so.
So you, with this building a new Oakboro Elementary, that would be a K-5, correct?
That's correct.
Our STEM school, from my knowledge, Oakboro's pretty proud of our STEM school. Would there ever be an option that Ridgecrest could become a STEM school? Or how would the STEM part still remain with Oakboro?
Those are great questions, and I think I'll answer Ridgecrest first, and I'm not going to speak for the board. They're all here and can certainly chime in on that. I don't think anyone on the board's for or against Ridgecrest. I think this board is actively pursuing cleaning up the deed more so than it's 100 years worth of heirs. We're down to 3. One recently died, so you got to find those heirs. So right now, what we know is that the basketball gymnasium is used by Parks and Rec. Both Parks and Rec and Travel are using the softball, baseball field, and we got a high school wrestling team, the middle school wrestling team, wrestling in the cafeteria. That should be an issue that we're all asking is why. But yes, I think personally, this is just my opinion, it's not representative of the board, that if the board in the future can clean up the deed, we have capacity issues, we have the proper funding. Ridgecrest to me is better suited as a choice school because you don't, the transportation is tougher. We looked at where our student counts were last year, and I'm just ballparking, it might have been 2 years ago, ballparking the numbers, but you go on the Millingport side of Ridgecrest building all the way to Highway 73 in Albemarle, and you got 60 kids. So that's tough on a bus route and on our transportation. So the state, I believe, mandates a certain efficiency within that transportation.
Well, with state efficiency, the worse your efficiency, the less money you get.
Yeah, and you're back to the point of choice doesn't have to abide by some of the general statutes, and we just would have more flexibility that way. But I think when we look at it now, and you got option A, option B, we have to pursue Oakboro.
But you can look at several different things as far as the curriculum goes in a particular school. You can look at, either tracking it out or making it a whole school emphasis and some other different things. So.
Second part of your question, which I think was the first, but was the STEM. That's been very popular, I think. Mrs. Crawford, I see Wallace sitting back there, her husband. She does a fantastic job. I don't know if anyone knows her. The kids do great. Mr. Gray's back here. He's done really well, and it seems to have thrived over there. So at least the board has thought that we would love to keep that option there at Oakboro. And I think as the Ridgecrest conversation evolves and we have more certainty around what we can do, because I'm never going to vote to put taxpayer dollars on land we don't own. That just doesn't make any sense. So, Stephen, I don't think you're going to invest in building a house on my land. It just you can't never get the taxpayer money back. But just like you saw in the capacity numbers, we're going to run into this again. And without action in this case, because we don't have an information problem, we got an action problem. We don't take action in this county. We love to order studies, and we love to analyze the data. We just have a real problem of all coming together and making a vote to fund it. That's been the real problem. So, yeah, I think that there's a lot of discussion going on with Ridgecrest, and there's an appetite to solve that problem.
I know that this board has had conversation when we're talking about a new Oakboro school because of the STEM. And I think we've had conversation in saying that school could really run like Indy School does. It's a school within a school, so we have dual immersion there, but we also have a regular school. So an Oakboro STEM could work that same way. You could have the STEM program there in addition to having a regular school setting. So that is something that's possible.
Would it still be choice? Could someone that doesn't live within that map line that you showed still come to Oakboro because of the STEM part?
If we would continue having STEM there, it would have to be a choice school.
You could do it like Indy, though. You would have a string of students that would be on the choice, and everyone else comes from the general area. Yeah.
In the way the state legislature have made the laws, and if you probably already know, but if you don't, your taxpayer dollars follow the student now, and that's a law I think a year or two ago. So when you think the voucher programs, when you think about private schools, you think about charter schools, you think about other types of choice schools, it follows the student. Losing my point here, but that's where, you know, with choice, it can really be attractive.
Question I would have, just kind of echo what Roger said. If numbers are impacted, say, a new Oakboro school, and it stays a STEM, the Oakboro resident or the student that lived in our district have precedent over somebody that didn't live in this district, but wanted to come to the STEM school.
And that's why I was talking about earlier, as far as looking at the curriculum, there's a lot of different ways that could look. Because there's like, I know there's, you know, you could do it to where there would be a STEM emphasis in the it wouldn't be as strong, I guess. There's a lot of different ways to put it together, yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is, if a kid lived in Millenport and they wanted to come to Oakboro, you're not gonna take an Oakboro kid, the numbers of that steep, and say, well, you live in Oakboro, but you can't go there because of the numbers. They would have priority.
Well, that's the law. I mean, they move into the district, you got to provide them an education. With the choice, even with Indy and with Oakboro, you can move the number. You don't have to stay there. Like we could reduce it or we could increase it. And to some degree, they are self-sustaining. But yes, someone moves into the town, then they're going to have a spot at Oakboro School within the school district.
This other information I'm gonna throw out, you may be aware of this, but talking about the building has also caused 19, I'd say since 19, give or take, since the 70s, 80s, 90s, there have been 19 staff members that have been diagnosed with cancer. And that's been validated. Who's to say what caused it? But, you know, it does impact, and it hits home, I think, when you're talking about a building. I mean, and I'd be the first to say, I will gladly get rid of a 79 Pinto and get a 26 Explorer any day. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, the other thing that bothers me, and you all go to the mountains and the beach, you can go to the furthest parts of North Carolina, western, and to the coast, and you can see these little obscure townships with beautiful school buildings. And you think, we're sending our kids to that. And you're right, Dustin. We're way behind the 8 ball, and things, we're playing makeup big time, because things that should have happened 25 or 30 years ago did not happen. And I said this to y'all before. That middle school concept should have happened way, way before it did. And now we're having to, you know, fix problems, and it's becoming monumental. But in a couple of questions you answered with the K-5. So how many 6th, 7th, and 8th graders do we have at Oakboro School, would you guess?
It's less. I think it's less than 100 or 75.
Mr. Gray, how many do you have? About 70.
It's not, and I'm not going to speak for Mr. Gray, but some of the concerns I've had about that is it really doesn't align with middle school sports. So it's very difficult to do the STEM 6-8 option, get out at, I think it's 3:30, 3:15, and be able to make a ball game at 4 o'clock across the county. It just hasn't worked out. So there are some challenges to trying to run a middle school out of there. And if you remove them out, you'd have to send them to West Stanley Middle that's 113% capacity as it sits now. You gotta remember, that was built as an elementary school. So that has scarred the county too on the bonds. And if you walk the wings, they're smaller wings, and there's one bathroom per wing. So it has its own issues just being a middle school.
Well, and you touched on this. The other thing we ought to pay attention to, again, I'll go back 30, 35 years. This isn't the first think tank consulting firm we have hired. We've hired at least 2 before this one and paid them 6 figures. The other thing is, if you've got these people, as I heard Dustin say earlier in a prior meeting, if we're going to pay these people, this is what they do for a living, to give us recommendations, I'd like to know that we're going to follow them. And I agree with you. If you're on a board, everybody's not going to agree, but if you're giving these hard, cold facts and they're telling us this is what we didn't do years ago, because we hired these same type firms, they told us what we needed to do, but because of hidden agendas and other things, we decided, no, we don't want to do that. We've got to do it now. If we don't, we're never going forward. But all I'm saying is, if somebody's giving us hard, factual data and we don't pay any attention to it and we ignore it, we're never going to get out of the hole we're in. And like I said, I'd be foolish to say I don't want a new school. I wouldn't care what should be. A new school's a new school, and so. But
Let me give them an idea of the cost of it. You referenced Mr. Smith referenced the studies. Everybody knows Montgomery County, they built it in the high 200s per square foot. They opened in 2020, I believe it was $87 million. We talked to the architect firm, and I think one of them said we're at $500 a square foot now. So you're talking for Mr. Barber, I think you had a question, 100,000 square foot elementary school at $500 a square foot now, we're looking at $50 million. The cost in the 2005 study to build a West Stanley High School was $25 million. If you do the math on it, the county's revenue, don't quote me on it, was in the 50s, I believe, at that time, million annually. We have just doubled our revenue in 20 years, but the cost has gone to, 130, 140 million possibly now. If you build a 250,000 square foot high school at $500,000 square foot, well, do the math on it. It's the inflation rate's been about 9% a year in cost versus about 4 to 5% annualized increase in our revenue. Essentially, the cost to build has more than doubled what we've made. And by putting it off further, one of the architect firms that we interviewed has it going to $1,200 a square foot. So the longer we wait, if you don't like taxes and you want to pay the least amount possible, then we better start taking some action because waiting in this county has cost us. It has not worked. It's put us where we're at now, and a lot of counties are in the same situation. Wealth is concentrated in North Carolina. There's a lot of issues. It's not just the school board or just a county. It is a lot of variables that has created the situation that we're in, but we just have not, as a county, taken control of that.
last thing I'll say, talking about studies. In fact, Mr. Brett did this study. It was just here. You can go to similar populated counties in North Carolina, and you can say, okay, how many schools are in your school system? We have 19 schools, the same school systems that have similar demographics, school populations that we do, on the average are operating 4 or 5 less schools. and you got Millenport out there with less than 300 students,
Less than 200.
less than 200.
Less than 200. So
Jeez.
you get back to what Mr. Smith is referencing is, again, that the state funding is the primary source of funding for operations. The county, by general statute you saw earlier, funds buildings, maintenance, that's our responsibility, and supplements by a different general statute. But the primary operations are funded by the state. So when we get state monies, it's based on the number, the average daily membership. That's how we're allotted. It's not on buildings. So if you take 700 students and you split them between 2 buildings, and your costs are going to go up that the local taxpayer has to have, and each building is going to have less state revenue to be able to reinvest into the kids. So they have created allotment formulas, the state legislature, that has incentivized slimming down and making what you have very attractive. You have to put more kids in a building, and I see Mr. Jackson finally showed up to come visit us. So it's the same way I was talking about West Stanley High School earlier. And the lack of opportunity that you have over there with kids going to several different places. But that's the way it is. I mean, that's just economics. It's mathematics. The state funds it. If we don't like it, then we got to be Union, we got to be Cabarrus, we got to be Mecklenburg, and we got to pay for it as a county. So if we're not allotted a teacher, if we're not allotted, you don't have enough kids. Albemarle High School, same way. That's where I graduated in 1998. There's less than 400 students in the school. They don't have enough kids in there to create demand for classes. And the state doesn't fund it because there's not enough kids in the building. So therefore, the county would have to pick up that tab to offer it if a handful of kids, wanted to take a certain curriculum. So in order to offer trades, in order to offer higher level academic curriculum for the college route, and keep the kids on the campus. That's what annoys me as a board member, and this is just my opinion here. I'm not speaking for the board, is that a kid has to go to 3 different locations to take classes. And what happens is, if you can't afford it, and you don't have transportation, or you don't have a conducive learning environment outside of the school, and if you don't have readily available internet access, you don't have access. Because you just don't. And that's what's happening across the county. And I always get it for living on the western end that West Stanley is so much better. And quite frankly, it's not. There are significant issues that we have to address as a board and as a county.
Well,
I just want to say, too, you have a finite amount of money.
Sorry, I've been trying to say something for a second. I think Commissioner Smith brings up a good point about the choice option versus those districts to Oakboro, because if this does come to fruition and there is a new Oakboro school, we all know that everybody likes the new shiny building. So we have to be very strategic about the way that we open that up as a choice for the entire county, that it doesn't displace any students that would be districted to Oakboro. So I think that's a very valid point, because I know that was a draw for Indy when it swapped to Dion. Indy was very popular across the county. So I just wanted to say that would be something we would definitely have to sit and look at, the percentages not to disperse local citizens districted to that school. So thank you.
So Carla, when you're saying disperse local citizens to the school, is that the ones that's currently here now? Because my concern is with this new school, question number 1, first, how many county commissioners are here to support the plan? Number 2 is how many board commissioners for the school board is on board to, help support the plan? Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of questions, so I can reiterate the questions because I wrote them down. Number 3, with the plan, building the school board, will that line come with this new school? So the ones that feed into the Aquadale district now, would they now feed back into the school?
That's my understanding. Yes, they would, per the map that's in our.
So one question at a time.
Yeah.
My memory's getting, we got Mr. King, Commissioner King back here.
I only see Mr. King here
Yeah, I only
tonight.
see Mr. King. So that's a whole nother topic. Second question, one of them was on the district line, like kids going in Aquadale. The discussion so far has been something similar to the old Oakboro district line. And I can't remember without looking at the map exactly where that ended, going that way, that direction. But yes, from 8th Street on back here, these kids go to our district into Aquadale. There is no district for the Oakboro school, and that creates other issues for us too. And so, yes, we would want to redistrict this. So they would go from Aquadale and they would go back into Oakboro. What that district line looks like, I don't know. It could be 2-3 years. The board will have to order the study again. We'll get the data for the demographer to sort of draw it and go from there.
Okay, so you're saying 2 to 3 years, but when is the project expecting to build the school?
I would like it yesterday.
So we're, okay, so you're saying.
So the grant application, so Mr. King is here, and I don't speak for the county commissioner board. What our next steps would look like is we're hiring an architect. They're helping us right now. We've already got the data, the demographer data, prepare this application. That seems to be the best process with the state. We feel like that's a great first step. That opens up in August. It'll be due like mid-September. So that'll be the cutoff, and then we'll find out, late summer, early fall, we're re-awarded the grant or not. And if we're not, the problem's still here.
Well, prior to that, we have to get the commissioners to sign off on the match to even apply for the grant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but that's kind of one of your questions.
Yeah.
But assuming that our commissioner board would do that, because if they don't, to Mrs. Poplin's point, then we can't do anything.
So we'll just have a new school, but students are
We
still.
won't have any new school.
We'll have
Because the
to
county has
try
to-
to repair what we have.
Yeah, so the first thing is the grant and getting town support. We're doing all the work that we have in control. So only thing that the school board can control is assessing what we need, informing citizens, pursuing grants, talking to our county commissioner board, making the formal request so that citizens know what we're requesting. They have to vote for it. So 4 of 7 county commissioners have to vote to, 1, sign the application grant. Let's assume that we don't get awarded. The problem's still here. Then the county commissioner board, by general statute, still has to fund school buildings. We don't have an ability to levy taxes. We don't have an ability to ask for a bond. We don't have an ability to get a loan. That's all done by local government, county government. So then the question is, okay, well, are we just going to wait until the next cycle, which is a whole nother year? You're talking a year and a half from now to apply for this grant again, or will our county commissioner board start pursuing other lending options? So maybe it's a combination of a loan, maybe it's a combination of fund balance. That's for them to decide how they want to do that, but we are at the mercy. This board is at the mercy of the county commissioners to fund anything we ask for. So all we're doing is all we can control. That is to pay for the studies, to get the drawings, to involve the architect, to request the county to apply for the grant. And we feel like your support, you getting outspoken about it, you advocating for your town and what we're doing will absolutely help, because they need to know. I can't remember your other questions.
No, you answered, that's fine, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for him?
Mayor, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Only thing I would like to say is definitely, as a board member here, I would support this 100%. Who wouldn't want a 2026 Chevrolet Tahoe instead of an Expedition? But, here's the thing. It's going to cost money, and we have to invest in our kids. They are our future. Everything's going up. We know that. These things and this board has had tough decisions to make now, because 20 years ago, these decisions should have been made at a cheaper cost. We're just going to have to fund this somehow or another. So I want to challenge you all and Mr. King to come together because I know there's animosity in that room. And you all owe it to this county to figure this out. Lock yourselves up in that room and walk out of there with a plan.
I just want to thank everyone for coming here tonight and hearing what we have to say. Of course, all the people in the audience who come here, hopefully to support, and hopefully we can get this work done that has to be done, and we start moving forward with a good plan.
Well, I know it's been mentioned, but I want to specifically thank Mr. King for showing up tonight to hear the conversation.
We do appreciate you being here, Brandon. Thank you. Yeah, right, we understand that, we do. But we do thank you for taking your time to come and listen. And
Can I say just one more thing? I'm
Sure.
sorry, as far as the needs base goes, we got a new superintendent. They're always passing bills. We don't know how long it's going to be here. So it's imperative that we do try and give it the best effort we can up front. There's other monies that need to be allotted out west for schools that have issues. So it's kind of a sense of emergency. I just wanted to make that point before we left. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank Commissioner King for being here tonight. We butt heads regular, but we're working for the same thing. I want to thank the town of Oakboro for the support you've given our school system before, dealing with SROs and other things. I want to shout out that the Oakboro STEM School is not just a building that's falling apart, basically, but it's a group of people that are doing some amazing things. Numbers, capacities, codes and all that, we're talking about children, and we have to do what's right by the kids. So I see some of my Oakboro STEM folks out here. You want to get your heart pumped up, go down there and visit someday. Maybe not right now because we're getting ready to testing, but go see those youngins when they're playing out in the playground. Go in the classroom, go in the STEM lab and see what they're doing. That's what we're all supposed to be striving for that. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give homework. Matt, I never gave you homework in 4 years, did I, man? I was not a very good teacher, I guess. But I'm going to ask the audience and everybody here, keep in mind that every decision is dealing with children, our most valuable asset, and please pay attention to what's going on. There's a difference between consolidation and redistricting. Redistricting is inevitable, okay? We have limited resources from the state of North Carolina. We have got to address the resources to the greatest need. And when we toured Oakboro several months ago, I was scared for our kids. When I see masonry coming apart and children walking underneath there, I was scared for our kids. We have to do something.
any other board members have anything to say?
I just really want to, again, Mr. King, thank you for being here. Thank our board members for what they've said. Mr. Liz, excellent job, and Dr. Dennis, and the Board of Commissioners from Oakboro, thank you for being here. And all the people that are here, and many of you I know, and I see teachers that are, well, you're emotional because you know what needs to happen to get it, that school for the children. And I taught school for over 32 years. I taught under the principalship of Mr. Buzz Smith. But, even West Stanley then, we had concerns. And that's been, it's been a long time. But I agree with Mr. Sorensen that you have to put things aside and you have to realize our children is what matters. So for my grandchildren, I want them to have the best that they possibly can have in facilities, in teachers, in curriculum. And they should not have to look at a nearby county and think, why can I not have that? And then beyond that, I look at many of you here, you've got children in our school. And when I say time passes quickly because it's not going to be children, it's going to be your grandchildren. What is going to be left for them? What school are they going to have? So when you said we need to lock ourselves up and we need to come together, we've got to, but the number one thing is we've got to put our children first. And when we do that, we can come up with what needs to happen. So again, thank you for hosting us in this beautiful building, and for all of you here, our board as well. Thank you.
We do appreciate you, Mayor Uri, and the county commissioners of Oakboro for allowing us, for even being willing to work with us and to sit down. We sat down with a couple of you earlier and shared information and then decided to come back together as full board. So we appreciate you taking the time to do that. This board is well aware that we cannot sit here for another 22 years and do nothing. And that's what has happened. You know, we are looking for things for our students who are here today. We're looking to improve things for the next generation. And unfortunately, it's things that didn't occur for past generations. But we're working hard to try to accomplish some of those goals. So we appreciate you being here with us tonight. If my board doesn't have any other comments, I'll entertain a motion for us to adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. We are adjourned.
Property value, and that is for them to pull that back down, which would pull it below 61 cents. What you're still going to be paying a little bit more, but I don't like paying more. Nobody else does. But if you know what it's going for, to me, it's a little easier to swallow. So if you're in favor of supporting a new Oakboro Elementary School, the county commissioners need to know it. You just need to make your voices loud and speak with them and show your concerns and tell them that you are in support of a new Oakboro Elementary School. And really, they might need to think twice about going revenue neutral. This county is in need of a lot, and from what I understand. But I appreciate each one of you coming. And commissioners, do you have anything else? If not, I would entertain a motion. We adjourn. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.